Welcome to the SwimSwam Breakdown. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Austin, Texas. We are joined by SwimSwam Editor-in-Chief Braden Keith from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Senior International Reporter Loretta Race from Kentucky. First off today, I know your Phillies are in the World Series. It's about the only thing I know about baseball. So my question is this: is baseball the most boring sport?
No, swimming is. Playoff, we'll get more into that later, right? Playoff baseball is exciting. Playoff baseball is a good time. I want to be clear, the Phillies are not my team per se. I am just anti-Astros, and I like it when my city's happy. That makes me happy.
Oh, that's both your cities in the World Series, Braden.
Yeah, but I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a Cubs fan.
So really, it's neither of your cities.
So I think baseball is boring. Okay, but it's this level, and then beneath it is golf and bowling. Those two are like tied for the most.
Yeah, but I was watching Nelly's celebrity bowling show on TV the other day. It came on after something else I was watching. And that had me entertained. I was glued to the TV for an hour and a half watching celebrities bowl.
It really took me a minute to comprehend that entire phrase. Nelly's celebrity bowling show. I would watch the crap out of that. I just saw that movie with Woody Harrelson and Bill Murray about bowling. I don't know if you guys have something like that. Yeah, where Woody Harrelson like gets his hand chopped off and then he has to bowl. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I would say golf is also boring, but bowling, I would rank it above baseball, honestly.
Oh, no, but playoff baseball is fun. Playoff baseball is a whole different game.
What makes it more fun? Just the stakes
more
are
intense. Higher? Everything matters. There's more strategy going on. I don't know. It's just everybody's a little more focused. There's a little more going on. John Smoltz does playoff baseball, and John Smoltz is the greatest commentator on television, but that's not what you came here to hear about.
Oh, you said that because he was a Chicago dude, wasn't he?
No, he was an Atlanta Brave.
Okay, never mind.
He might have played for the Cubs for like 10 minutes. I kind of think he was like drafted by the Cubs and then traded to the Braves.
Okay. The name is familiar.
No, he's drafted by the Tigers. That's wrong. I don't know. He was famous for playing for the Braves.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, on that note, let's talk about the most boring sport, what everyone came here to listen to. All right. Well, Loretta was right. I was wrong. Katie Ledecky broke a world record in the 1500. Loretta called it on this show last week. What do we think of this world record? Do you feel like this was maybe another world record that's a short course meters record prime for breaking? Or do we think Ledecky's just kind of hitting her stride once again and back to breaking world records in season?
First of all, I think that has got to be the wrongest that anybody has ever been on this podcast. Because she destroyed that record.
It was by a lot.
Yeah. Like, I don't know that we can conclude that this is Ledecky hitting full stride and we're going to see Ledecky back at her best times in long course. Like, it was definitely another very soft record for her to break. Like, it was soft because she had not swum it. Mm-hmm. So that kind of keeps us from reading too far into what this means for her in long course. But I think it's exciting. People loved it. It was trending on Twitter. So still excited by it, but can't read too much into it, I don't think.
Primarily still a record because Ledecky rarely swims short course meters. Yeah. That's the only reason why it survived.
And when she she didn't swim that race.
Yeah. So I do feel like
1500.
Right. So I do feel like the stars aligned kind of to make this record drop, but it was inevitable. Just whenever she was going to race the event, it was going to fall, and they happened to be here.
Coleman, here's your redemption moment. Will Katie Ledecky break the world record in the 800 free this weekend in Indianapolis? Choose wisely.
I have to go a whopping yes.
Considering she almost broke it, basically. Yeah.
Unless the jet lag from Toronto just really gets to her. I'm kind of curious if you guys think that Ledecky, just the aging process in general, lends itself more to short course meters than to long course?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, my instinct would be yes. My instinct would be that, well, I don't know. My instinct would be that your overwaters degrade before your underwaters do. But, Katie's never, I mean, it's weird to say because she's also the fastest ever in short course. But I think overwater swimming is clearly her strength, right? Relative to underwater swimming.
I would say that too. And I think like comparing her to other, phenoms like Ariane Titmus of Australia, like Titmus dropped the 1500 essentially. So I think sometimes like the 400 seems more vulnerable for Ledecky, but it's not, in my opinion, more Ledecky's fault as it is more the other, competition focusing more on that event. And Ledecky still kind of having that full range, of freestyle in her repertoire.
Agreed. I mean, I would think that as she aged, she's probably going to gain a little more strength, whether that's from lifting or I think just from maturing, which would lend itself to a short course pool.
Are you talking about old man strength?
Talking about old
woman's
strength.
Old woman's strength.
Yeah. And I mean, I would think that Ledecky gets that naturally, if not from working more in the gym. I actually don't know what Katie Ledecky's lifting routine is. I need to ask her that in Indy. But yeah, and long course is especially in her event, such an aerobic beast that it might be hard to maintain, the pace she's gone. We haven't seen her go best times long course since she broke that mile world record in 2018. So I don't know. I was just thinking about it, but let's keep the Ledecky train rolling. Loretta, you mentioned it. A lot more people are kind of dipping their toes into this 400 free. And we saw one this weekend, one more athlete took down Katie Ledecky in a head-to-head race. Summer McIntosh and Ledecky both dropped 352s in the 400 free. Summer just got the best of her in front of a home crowd, no less. That race was really exciting to watch live via live stream, which we'll get to live streams later. But does seeing two 352s change your view on Li Bingjie's, week-old world record of 351?
Summer will be in front of a home crowd again this weekend, by the way, because she actually lives closer to Indianapolis than Katie Ledecky does by about 200 miles. Probably not even that much. I think, look, I'm kind of like sick of this whole, anytime a Chinese or a Russian swimmer does something fast, all anybody wants to talk about is that they're obviously doped. I will never sell out on any swimmer, American, Russian, Chinese, or otherwise, not being clean, right? I think that doping has gotten so complex. I think the tests have gotten so sensitive. We've seen so many false positives. Almost everybody has an explanation for how they accidentally doped these days. And there's a certain generation, Mel Stewart, whenever a Chinese swimmer goes fast, Mel Stewart gets 600 text messages from his peers just declaring them doping. Because when Mel Stewart was in the peak of his swimming career, they were definitely all doping. So like that's for some people, that's never going to change. But like, I'm so bored by it because at the end of the day, like, there's over 1 billion people in China and they sink a ton of resources into swimming. So why is it so hard to believe that they can train a swimmer to go 351? And that ignores the fact that peak Katie Ledecky probably would have been 349 in this race. Leah's training under Mark Schubert, an American coach, and you can say a lot of things about Mark Schubert, but like one of those things to me is not that Mark Schubert would continue to train her or be involved in her training if he believed that she was doping. He is from that generation I was referring to with Mel, where they just assumed all of the Eastern swimmers were doping. All of the communist swimmers were doping. So I don't know. It's I kind of still feel the way about that swim that I did. Like it's the world record. I don't think that the swim in and of itself gives us any evidence that she's doping. I think Katie Ledecky circa 2018 would have been much faster than that world record, and then we wouldn't even have to have this conversation. But I am just kind of bored that all we ever get to talk about when a Chinese swimmer goes fast is that they're obviously doping.
Yeah. And for me, I think part of it is just Sun Yang kind of just puts this black cloud over Chinese swimming as a whole. So I think that he, people kind of look to him as like, okay, well, if he did it, then like it's systematic, all over the place kind of thing. And, so I was looking, and so there's 18 current Japanese records that were done on home soil.
Japanese or Chinese?
Japanese. I'm saying, I'm just comparing it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying there's 18 Japanese records that were done on home soil. There's 20 Dutch records that were done on home soil. And I don't remember anyone saying, hey, there's this doping flag because these people are producing these fast swims. Yeah, they weren't world records. Okay. But they were like that person's lifetime best, or, they were maybe within the realm of a world record done on home soil. And no one's kind of raising the red flag because it happens to be Chinese or Russian, for example.
So this is a response to the people who say, well, obviously the Chinese are doping because they only swim world records at home, where ostensibly there's not international drug testing oversight, which is not really entirely true because FINA can test in China. The Sun Yang test was a FINA ordered test. We see this whole thing about Chinese swimmers doping at home as though they're the day before the meet, they're just dumping a bunch of HGH into their system and dropping 4 seconds as a result of it. All of these swimmers we've seen doping, it's not like when the meet they test positive at, they've dropped 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, right? Doping testing has become good to the point where if you're going to dope, it's micro dosing. It's very small amounts, which mitigates the impact of it. It's not whatever the German women were taking in the 80s, right? Like that's not the kind of doping we do anymore. And it's not like it's not like Li Bingjie, and whenever she swam her last meet, not in China, just suddenly came home, started doping like crazy, and that doping resulted in a 3-second drop. Like that's not how modern doping works. It's not like a magic pill, right? You don't just take a pill or get a shot and all of a sudden overnight you drop time. So that argument doesn't make sense to me for that reason. It's not like you can just target your doping. Oh, I'm just going to dope when I'm at home and then I'm going to leave and I'm going to stop doping. Like that just isn't how it works.
Yeah. So moving on to NCAA swimming, we've got one very, very exciting big meet coming up. That's the UT-UVA duel. There's going to be lights. There's going to be cameras. There's going to be DJs. And what is there not going to be? A live stream. So no one will see any of those things if they are not at the meet or not watching SwimSwam YouTube after the meet. Why? How do they not have a live stream when we've seen other teams this season put on a meet similarly, but do it to the point where they are selling out venues and live streaming it to the public audience?
This feeds into a narrative we talk about a lot here on this podcast. And swimming people, like there's just no sort of ingrained generational knowledge about how to make sports popular in swimming, because for so long it's almost been a point of pride for swimming to not be popular. Like I think sometimes people prefer that it's not popular because then they feel like the anti-heroes. When you're in the pool, nobody's going to confuse Texas and Howard, but Howard sells out their meets, and the one meet earlier this year was a big thing. It was bigger than normal, but like that's not that unusual for them. And there's this sort of issue where programs like Texas and Cal and all of these really great programs, they've fallen so in love with the idea of, everything we do is geared towards performance. We don't want distractions. We don't want this, that, and the other. All we care about is the championship. Even the Texas AD tweeted, all that matters to our swimming program is a national championship in March. and they've basically just become aloof from the fan base. Yin Yin, who sometimes comes on this podcast, used the word aloof to describe these programs earlier, and I think that's perfect. Like Howard has this format, and we're going to see lots of schools try to replicate it, but they don't really understand what Howard is doing. That's great. Howard has a narrative. They're the only Black HBCU college with a swim team, and that's their narrative. They lead into it. They talk about it. When we call, they answer. When we say, can we have your captains on before the meet? They say, absolutely yes. Tell us when. When we call Texas and Cal, they say, oh, no, maybe. They give us weird runaround responses. The Texas SID the other day told us to stop asking where their Olympians are. We don't even know if the Olympians are going to show up. Like, are you expecting spectators to come to this meet when the school says, no, it's not important whether our Olympians show up to the meet? The narrative of Texas-UVA has become, there's no streaming, and we don't know if our best swimmers will be there, and we're not going to tell you. Like that is the narrative of the Texas-UVA meet, and that does not get butts in the seats. They're just like taking this Howard format and trying to sort of slap it onto what they're doing and think that that's going to make it as cool as what Howard did. And this isn't necessarily on the coaches or the athletes, right? Erica Sullivan was tweeting that when they were asking for the light show, for the walkouts, for all this excitement to make the meet more exciting, it didn't cross their mind to ask about a live stream. But Texas has so many administrators. The athletics department has so many administrators whose job it should be to think about these things, to think about how to promote the program, to think about how to engage with their fans. And those people should be doing it, and they're not, and they're letting their teams down. It's easy for Texas and Cal sit there and they're like, Texas prints money, right? Their football program and to some extent their basketball and their volleyball programs just print money. So they can kind of sit there and just do whatever they want. And their swim programs will continue to be funded. But the world of college athletics is changing rapidly. And there's a lot of concern about what that means for the Olympic sports. And I think that that's where the sort of comeback for a lot of this stuff could wind up being. When in the new world, does swimming still fit into the NCAA? And if there are not people at the meets because the programs have spent so much time saying, no, we're not going to do that because we think that distracts from our performance, and our performance is all we care about, and yada, yada, yada. At some point, that could come back to bite them. It might not. There might just continue to dump money into the Olympic sports programs for whatever reason. But if they don't, that's going to be the payoff.
Well, my one question in this specific case is, did they not do a live stream to try to push more people to have to go physically to the event?
Erica said no. Yin asked her that on Twitter, and she said, no, not that at all. They just didn't think of it. Okay. It's a football weekend. Longhorn Network, ESPN owns the rights. It's a football weekend. They just, their sports information director splits time between swimming and football. I think it's just a matter of they just didn't want to. Longhorn Network is airing a football game from 1990 during the Friday evening session, and then their Saturday pregame show during the Saturday session, which is more obvious. You're not going to bump the pregame show, but ESPN Plus exists. There's other ways to do it. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, no, I was going to say my son plays freshman football, or actually he's a sophomore now at our high school, and my boyfriend who lives in England is able to live stream the games and watches football games, right, and gets called out like, hey, we have like 2 UK people, watching this football game.
And the Texas alumni are in the comments coming for me because they always are. Oh, you're never satisfied. They're doing something. It's progress. And it's like, yes, but this is what we continue to miss in swimming. This is the problem with the ISL, right? ISL had great ideas, but they missed the lowest hanging fruit. These things are not complex. There are probably 200 registered corporations in the United States or more that do these live streams. Mm-hmm. Like, it is not hard. Call me, give me $50 in a plane ticket, and I will come and live stream this for you. Like, that's how easy it is.
Yes.
And that's the frustrating part about this meet specifically was, as you said, Longhorn Network has the rights, so no one else can come stream it. You know, I couldn't go into the venue and put it on Instagram live with my phone because they have the rights, yet they're not doing anything with them. Yet they're playing a football game from 30 years ago.
Right. And at the end of the day, that problem is solvable, right? Like there's workarounds, and our readers will come up with tons and tons of workarounds that would probably be fine. But it takes somebody in the athletics department to say, yes, this is worth the effort. And they just continue to say, no, it's not worth the effort. I don't know. It is what it is, but like, it's aggravating. It's just so aggravating. We're not asking them to fly Rowdy in, right? Like we're not asking for the full $200,000 production. Just like point a camera at the pool.
Yes.
Wait, can we just talk about the fact that like that seems to be the bar of like, wow, this is a real event because Rowdy Gaines will be commentating. Which like, does that really? I don't think it adds what we imply that it does.
Yeah, but if Rowdy goes, then they're sending 3 cameramen, they're sending a producer, they're sending a play, you know, all of a sudden you're going from the $50 production to a $20,000 production.
Very true.
We just need that dude live stream Andy. We just need him to like fly every meet.
Yes, just give live stream Andy is an academic. Just give him a job at the University of Texas and a little housing stipend, and he will do this every week. I guarantee it.
It'd be so good.
Yeah.
The hero we need. All right. Well, unfortunately, we have more, I guess, potential college woes. Braden, you reported it earlier this week. The NCAA will be voting, Division I will be voting to eliminate the volunteer coach role and I guess expand a coaching roster, meaning you could hire more assistant coaches. How do you think, so if this vote does go through, which you might have more insight, Braden, on if you think it will, but if they do vote for this scenario, how do you think it will trickle down to swimming?
It's so weird being at the bottom of the totem pole, right? Because there's all kind of different ways to look at this. On the one hand, I am generally opposed to unpaid internships. You know, we pay all of our interns here at SwimSwam. I just believe, number one, people will work harder if you pay them. Number two, people deserve to be paid if they are providing value to your organization. But that being said, I understand the economics of college swimming. I understand that this will mean fewer coaches on deck. And I also understand that there are certain coaches who authentically volunteer just because they enjoy doing it. You know, we heard from one in the comments today, and she didn't post under her name, so I won't tell you who it was. She's a D1 volunteer assistant. She's got a full-time corporate job, and she helps out with a full-time job at the university in some other capacity, in a non-swimming, non-athletics capacity. And she just volunteer coaches because she thinks it's fun. And like, you hate to lose that. But I also hate that working for free for 3 years for, you know, unless you're an NCAA All-American, first team All-American, is the avenue to collegiate coaching. Like, I hate both of those things. So I don't, you know, I'm sure there's like creative ways to deal with that, but the NCAA is not going to get all that creative. You could come up with some kind of a system where if a person is making above some income from another job, they can volunteer. I don't know. There's a lot of stupid and complicated ways you could solve the problem, but I don't know what the solution is. Like, I don't know how to solve this problem in a way that improves swimming.
But that was my question, was like, what's the motivation behind the NCAA's, you know, deciding this? I mean, what do they care? You know,
they haven't really said. The coaching limits thing is something the NCAA wants to deal with, because the institutions, especially the big institutions that will in the not too distant future split off and become their own league, have said, if we can afford to have 20 football coaches, why can't we have 20 football coaches? Why should anybody tell us how many football coaches we should have? And I'm sure they make the argument that it's a better experience for the student athlete when you have more coaches, right? Because that's always sort of an ace card argument. If it improves the student athlete experience, why can't we do it? And so they have to figure out how to do that without things getting out of control. Because if you really took the reins off, I think there are programs that would have as many coaches as they do athletes. And I think things could get really, really messy if you sort of, if you just let them put anybody on staff, right? Like if you let the University of Texas put every famous Texas alum on their coaching staff, that provides a crazy like recruiting value. If you walk down the sideline and Matthew McConaughey is standing there, which he is anyway, but you can think of some ridiculous scenarios and they feel a little slippery slope, but college football is a slippery slope. So if there's a slippery slope potential in college football, it will probably happen. To that end, there are literal slippery slopes in college football locker rooms now. They have water slides. So if they have water slides, they will find ways to game these other rules. So they have to kind of come up with a balance to these sorts of things. Maybe part of that balance is you just change it per sport. The volunteer rules and the coaching staff rules are different already by sport. So that wouldn't be hard to just say football, basketball, you can do the X, swimming, you can do Y. But that still doesn't solve the problem of swimming being a scenario where you basically have to work for free in order to get a full-time job, and a full-time job that still doesn't pay very much. So I don't know. I guess if people are choosing to do it, then good for them. Free market versus socialism, right? Sorry, Loretta. Didn't mean to trigger you.
Thank you. I said the S word on that, but
I said the S word.
You did.
Am I the only one that hates that you have to volunteer to become a full-time college assistant?
Is that a proven fact? I mean, that might just be an anecdotal observation on your end? You know what I mean?
I feel like that's
the
kind of
on it, but
culturally the norm.
Yeah.
Unless you were
a
college
very good
swimming.
swimmer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you want to go into college swimming, you have to, you basically volunteer, I'd say for at least a year, to kind of get the hang of like recruiting and how things operate. Right. And because if you want to be a D1 coach, the path, like you can't just go be a paid assistant at a D2 or a D3 program. I mean, you can, but that pathway doesn't work out all that often. There are not that many D1 coaches who are hired from the D2 and D3 level. Mm-hmm.
That's purely anecdotal.
I mean, I don't really think that's great. I think the volunteer position is an important one. I don't like the fact that you have to do that in order to, like, if you're doing the 1 year volunteer so that you can get a job, you should be getting paid because you're doing a lot of work in that 1 year.
Yeah. Well, and I guess there's a question of, if you say, okay, teams, you must pay a minimum wage, is that really going to crush an athletics program? The minimum wage for a full-time employee is $16,000 a year. Or 17, 18. It's less than 20. It's not very much money on the scale of an athletics department, but there are 20 teams, and different sports have different cultures when it comes to volunteers. But all the volunteers in a big athletics department, you're probably talking $500,000 a year, which is not nothing, but on the scale of a Power 5 program, it's not a crushing amount of money either.
Mm-hmm.
That's excluding the volunteers who wouldn't work for minimum wage, which is football, basketball, etc.
I would just think you could find like other duties for them to perform, kind of like a grad assistant or something, where you could make it worth it.
Yeah. And most volunteers are not full-time anyway, so that number may even be bigger than it really should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's our news for the week.
That's it. That's all that happened.
That's all that happened. We had a World Cup.
Why am I so tired then?
That's pretty much it. But we do have our favorite game. Let's play some sink or swim. First up today on Sink or Swim, Adam Peaty has poison in his veins after missing the podium in the 100 breast at the Commonwealth Games this summer. He is coming back with a vengeance. Sink or swim, Adam Peaty wins double gold 50 100 breasts in Fukuoka.
Is poison like lactate?
Lactate is poison.
I'm going to start an app where it's just Adam Peaty telling you things to get you motivated. he's gotten really quite good at it.
That'd be a great app.
Yeah, we'll see if he follows through. He's going to get mad at me for saying that. We'll see if it all comes true. But he says a lot of things that are like, I don't know. He's probably been watching a lot of football TikToks or something.
It's like soundbitey. Yeah, very soundbitey. Yes.
Getting up at 5 a.m, turn on your Adam Peaty alarm.
Yes. You have poison in your veins. Dial 911. What's 911 in England?
Oh God, I don't know. 999, I think.
999, yeah. I in Fukuoka, I'm gonna sink winning them both. Not for any good reason. I don't really have a good reason. I don't know. I just until he starts winning again, I think I sink him being dominant. If he starts winning again, then I'll be back on the dominant PD train, the PD immortal train, the train that never ends.
I'm thinking it. I think I do think he will win the 100, but I think that Italy's Martinenghi is more kind of the favorite, if you will, for the 50. I do feel like Nicolo is in his prime. There's nothing stopping him. Like, he doesn't have these kind of roller coaster of like, yes, I'm on. No, I need the spark again kind of thing. So I feel like Nicolo is more the 50 front runner, but I do think Peaty will win the 100.
Do you ever feel like Adam Peaty is like too motivated? Like it feels like since he's been so highly motivated, like since that's become his thing, that his performances have struggled. And like I'm not a sports psychologist, I'm not a regular psychologist, but like there's got to be such a thing as too much motivation when your outlet is in individual sports, staring at a black line at the bottom of the pool. It's not like football and you can outlet your motivation by running into another dude at 300 miles an hour. Your outlet is solitude. And can too much motivation be counterproductive?
No.
Well, I just feel like
Michael Phelps commercial, Under Armour commercial, what you do in the dark.
Yeah,
comes out in the light, or whatever they say.
Michael Phelps never won a best time again after filming that commercial.
Oh, is that true? Oh,
well,
God.
yeah,
I mean, it was like 2015 or something.
That was more of a memorial.
Yeah.
That's
to
still
his career.
the highest watched or whatever red post on SwimSwam.
That's correct.
Thank you. Yes,
Courtesy
thank you very much.
Loretta Race.
Thank you very much.
He is the reigning SwimSwam champion.
Yes, but with Peaty, I feel like it says something more about him that he feels like he has to address or justify when he loses. Like, everybody loses every once in a while. Like, no one's going to win every single thing every single time. And I feel like for him, he has to almost make like a case about why he lost. And it's like, that's got to get you after a while. It's like some people just lose and you pick up and you move on. But for him, I feel like he almost has to like frame it like, I was in the middle of training or, whatever. And so I almost feel like he puts more pressure on himself. You know what I mean?
It's so obvious, right? Like, it's almost like he's saying, I didn't win before because I didn't have poison in my veins. When he could just say, I didn't win before because I broke my ankle or whatever, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like, it's not like a mystery why he didn't win at the Commonwealth Games. Like, of all the excuses that swimmers make for not winning, so-and-so was rested, so-and-so was suited, so-and-so shaved his mustache. Like, I was injured.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. That's like a very easy one for people to accept,
Yes.
and then just move on.
Mm-hmm.
But do it in the dark, right? Michael Phelps said, "Do it in the dark," and Adam Peaty likes to do it in the light. Good for him. He's one of the 100 most marketable athletes in the world, according to
Allegedly.
whoever that
his
was.
agents, his own agents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm swimming it. I think PD can not go best times and still win in both. And I think he will be much more on form this coming summer than he was this past summer. And for that reason, I think he will be unstoppable.
Coleman, we should start logging these sinker swims and do like an annual leaderboard.
Read receipts.
Yeah.
How do you phrase that? Receipt read?
Yeah.
Receipt reading. Yeah, Perfect. We'll do that. Next up, Ben Dornan of SwimSwam spoke to Ruta Meilutyte at the World Cup stop in Toronto. She said that she wasn't currently planning on going to short course worlds, but she was still weighing her options. After the success we've seen her have over the last 4 months, which has been quite a bit, do you see Ruta showing up in Melbourne?
I'm gonna sink it just because it's so far away. I'm gonna swim it because it's gonna be warm in Melbourne and it's gonna be cold in Lithuania. I'm gonna swim it, but it's like a real soft swim. I don't feel real good about it. I mean, there's money to be made, right?
Thinking it, I feel like if she said she's kind of on the fence about it, I feel like she'll kind of wait till Fukuoka. And then I think Paris 2024 is like her ultimate, I have totally re-arrived. I'm, reestablishing my dominance atop, the 100 breast podium. So I feel like December is kind of like she can't. I don't think she will. I'm thinking it.
I'm going to swim in as well. I think there's money to be made. I think she's on a hot streak. I don't know if she's going to Indy. I would assume she is if she went to Toronto. Why come to North America?
There's a lot of money to be made.
In
Indy since she swam Berlin, right?
Yeah.
So that's like
swim Berlin.
$60,000+ to be made in Indy. She'll be in Indy.
So
Indy versus Melbourne.
I think she'll keep the gravy train going. I think coming on her comeback, she's kind of felt things out, see how she's felt. I think she's going to be feeling good, and we'll see her down under to win a couple short course world titles. Also spoken to in Toronto, Kyle Chalmers, who said he is looking forward to a head-to-head battle with David Popovici and Caleb Dressel in the 100 free whenever that does come. This is a very specific sink or swim. Do you think that in Fukuoka we will see those three athletes in the 100-meter freestyle final right next to each other race?
I'm going to sink it because this is swimming and we can't have nice things. So something's going to happen. Chalmers is going to get injured. Dressel is still going to be on a break. Popovici is going to miss his flight from Romania. I don't know. I just feel like there's too many unknowns, especially between Chalmers and Dressel, that something's going to pop up and they're not all going to make it there.
I'm thinking it because I don't think Dressel has his eyes on 2023. I think he has his eyes on, if anything, 2024. So I feel like he's just not even going to be there. So if anything, I think it would be Chalmers, Popovici, and Hwang Sung-woo of Korea. That's who I think are going to be like the three primary, like the triad of the 100 free in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, there's still no indication that Dressel is back in the water, right? He just got another tattoo.
Right.
So that'll keep him out for a little while, maybe.
He always swims with his tattoos. He uses a thing. Yeah. But that's true. There is no indication, but I feel like he is. He posted to Instagram that one time. So,
about NFTs? No. About Ford? No.
I think it was.
He did one. Yeah, he did do one real post. You're right.
Yeah. I'm talking about the one real post.
Yeah. NFTs 6 months is too late.
Right.
12 months too late. How
I'll
long
keep
ago did
the,
it have
I'll keep the swim train going. I think we'll see it. I think we'll see the first heat of ever that has two guys go 46. I don't think all three of them will. I think two of them will. I think Kyle's been looking real good this season. I think David Popovici is David Popovici. I think Caleb Dressel was a big wild card, but I think they'll all be in the final. And I think we'll see the fastest 100 freestyle heat of all time.
Yeah, we definitely have to keep track of these sinker swims.
Count it. That's a receipt. All right. Will Michigan State swimming and diving actually get reinstated after their administration has said, we're looking into it?
You're just doing this to bait that one Michigan State alumni into telling us to go F ourselves over and over again. I hope that guy's not involved in this. I'm going to sink it because I think if push comes to shove and they paint Michigan State into a corner legally, that Michigan State will solve it with lacrosse or field hockey or something else that's not swimming. So that's, I think, why I'm sinking it. You know, I guess we don't know what the new administration is going to say about this. They did say they were going to reevaluate it, but administrators just say they're going to reevaluate things so that people stop calling them sometimes. So I'm going to sink it until we see more concrete progress.
I'm sinking it because I always go back to Western Kentucky. They said they were going to be a 5-year basic suspension. Okay. And then they were going to get reinstated, never got reinstated. So I have a hardened heart over that.
Yeah.
scenario.
Although Stony Brook eliminated their team, brought it back, eliminated again, and then brought it back again. So maybe that's the counterexample.
Maybe.
I'm sinking it until further notice. It's hard to bring a team back.
It just doesn't happen.
Right.
I guess where did it happen? It happened at William and Mary. Is that right? It happened at Dartmouth.
Were those teams gone, or were they just oh, we're getting cut and then we'll bring you back
No, they were I don't think they actually missed competition, but most of a big chunk of their roster transferred out. The cut was announced.
And
that was the whole one where she plagiarized. They basically got the president of the university fired because she plagiarized a speech.
Oh, right. And to me, that's the difference, is that Michigan State swimming and diving is non-existent right now. It's not half your athletes are gone, but you're still kind of there.
True.
It's not on campus, aside from, I'm assuming, the pool.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like it's way harder to resurrect something than to gather the shambles.
And unlike Iowa, unlike whoever, Michigan State, they need the pool, right? The pool still has to come. They're not going to reinstate the program, I don't think, without the pool. There's a lot of people who are arguing whether or not you need the pool, but the pool has to be there, I think, to convince the administration to reinstate. The Iowa women were reinstated, but they've got the pool and they used the lawsuits. But I think maybe the reason why Iowa didn't just go the lacrosse, field hockey, bowling route is because they already have the pool.
Mm. And last up on Sink or Swim, this is big news today. There will be a 1,500, I don't know if it's actually called the time trial, but at the World Cup in Indy, 2 girls, 2 women. Girls? I think they're girls.
Yeah.
Will be swimming the 1,500 free. That is Alexa Reyna of France and Katie Grimes of the US. It is dubbed a World Junior Record attempt. Are they going to get it?
Absolutely. Katie Grimes' long course best is better than the short course World Junior Record standard. Has anybody actually set the record? I think it's still one of those nameless
benchmark things.
No, Merv Tunsil. Tunsil of Turkey.
Yeah, I think she's going to crush it. Alexa Reyna is probably going after the French record, not the World Junior record. But But yeah, I think Katie Grimes is going to crush it. I think that's the easiest sink or swim we've had all year.
I'm swimming it too, but my question is, who arranged this? Like, how does this come about? Is this,
I don't know.
We found out about it because it was announced in the coaches meeting this morning. And a couple of the coaches texted us. I guess it was announced as a world record chase. So everybody thought Ledecky was going to try and lower her own record. But then Fina told us who was swimming and that it was a world junior record chase. Somebody else still thinks it's a way. I don't know. It was more complicated to get the information than it seems like it should have been. But I don't know. The officials are there.
I'm guessing
if the right person asks, right?
right?
Big Daddy Ron. He had to set this up.
Yeah. Well, and the Badger coach, Alexa Reyna, trains in New York at Badger Aquatic Club. He's no slouch either. He's got some connections as well. So
yeah, John Collins has been around the block.
Yeah.
Did you sink or swim it, Loretta?
I swam it. I think she totally will knock it out of the ballpark. And
Coleman, don't do it.
what?
Coleman. Coleman wants to sink it. Don't do it, Coleman.
I do. I want to sink it, but I'll swim it. I've got recency bias. I just saw Katie Grimes practice less than 2 months ago. She's a beast. She's going to crush it. I have full faith that world junior record will not stand for longer than a few days. That's this week's news in swimming. Tune in every week to the SwimSwam Breakdown for your week's news in swimming.